Recording in progress.
Vishnupad, Paramamsa, Parvacharya, Satarashat, Srimati Divine Grace, Abhayacharnavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnupad, Paramamsa, Parvacharya, Satarashat, Srimati Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Shri Guru Parampara Ki. Shri Rup, Shri Sanatan, Shri Bhadranath, Shri Shiva Kapalabhata Dasargunath Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavina Ki. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki. Premsko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sati Gaura Bhaktavana Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopnath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Karikavadan Ki. Shri Vrindavanam Ki. Shri Navrit Mayapur Dham Ki. Ganga Maya Manmai Ki. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki. Shri Radha Govinda Ki. Shri Ram Nami Ki. Shri Ramachandra Ki. Shri Gaura Premanande.
Haribo.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
All glories to the assembled devotees. All
Hare
glories
Krishna.
to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. All glories to Shri Gauranga, Shri Gauranga.
Two mics on you.
Om Jnana Timanasya Chanam Salashnaka Chakshun Miritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shvamupkadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiru Shiyuda Padakamalam Shigum Vaishnavam Sa Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sakanaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalita Shivashakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandha Chiratpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansna Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Panamama Haripriye Vankha Kalptrubhisha Kripa Sindhavesha Patanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachaya Dasatarane. Hare Krishna, I wish you all a good morning on this very auspicious day of the appearance day of Lord Ramchandra, that Ram Navami. So on this day we start the Bhakti Shastri course, and the first book we will discuss is Shri Isopanisad. So we have 4 books in the Bhakti Shastri: the Bhagavad Gita, the Shri Isopanisad, the Upadeshamrita, and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. These 4 books contain the essence of spiritual life. And today we will start with Shri Isopanisad. We will first try to understand what an Upanishad is. Where does it fit in this Isopanisad? So we have this Isopanisad is very philosophical. It's philosophical and it is puzzling, enigmatic, they say, difficult to understand. Without an explanation, it's difficult to understand. And in some verses, the Sanskrit words get different meanings. We will hear about that. We will hear about vidya and avidya, knowledge and ignorance, but it's mentioned in 3 verses, and in each verse they have a different meaning, these words. And the same later on, Sambuddha, Asambuddha, worshipping what is supreme and what's not supreme, and what's the result. That also different meanings in different verses. But at the same time, this Shri Isopanisad is very special. It's an Upanishad that directly points to the Supreme Personality of God. Many of the Upanishads are impersonal, but this is pointing directly to the Supreme Lord as a person. Now, the Shri Isopanisad, if we open the book, we will see that there is an introduction. When in 1969, Srila Prabhupada for the first time went to London, then in the center of London, in Conway Hall, it's said on the 6th of October 1969, he gave a lecture on the Vedas. Why did he give a lecture on the Vedas? He came to London and to Conway Hall practically all the guests were Indians, mostly Gujaratis, and they were all coming to hear Prabhupada, a saint from India, a sadhu, and Srila Prabhupada spoke about the importance of the Vedas, that so it is interesting that lecture that he gave to these Indians in London was later used as an introduction here to the Isopanisad. But let us first try to understand that these Upanishads, where does it fit in the Vedas? In the Vedas, you have what they call in Vedanta the Prasthanatraya. These are three forms in which the Vedas are presented. And in we will find this study of the Isopanisad is quite philosophical, and it may not attract so much those who have more practical intelligence. But this is the knowledge required to develop this practical intelligence. It's meant to be brought in practice, and we will stress that. And it's stressed also in this book. This small book contains the essence of the Krishna conscious philosophy. But now we were explaining where does it fit in. So Prasthanatraya, three forms of the Vedas: Shruti, Smriti, and Nyaya, or Vedanta. These are three forms. And what does it mean? What does it mean? I put it on the screen here. The Shrutis. What are the Shrutis? Are the Vedas directly. The Vedas were at the beginning there was only one Veda, but Vedavyas, Srila Vedavyas, who is the author of the Vedas, that he saw that Kali Yuga was coming, and he divided it in four Vedas. That the four Vedas are called Aparuseya. The four Vedas. And that interesting is that what I show here on the screen does not appear here. But it appears seemingly on Zoom. That's the technical problem. I can share it later with you. It will also be in the recording. But the Vedas, or the Shruti, are Aparuseya. You will find that term, Srila Prabhupada uses that in the introduction. Aparuseya means it's not from human origin. It's coming from Krishna directly. These are the words spoken by Krishna. Like also, Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita, is also that part of the Mahabharata is also considered as Shruti because it's spoken by Krishna. Apaurisaya, not from human origin. So that's a point we need to remember. Apaurisaya. Shruti means what has been heard. In former times, these Vedas were verbally transferred, and the Vedas were heard to the ear. And in former ages like Satya Yuga, everyone's memory was perfect. Once heard, never forgotten. So in former ages, the Vedas were not written down. Because the disciple would hear from the spiritual master and would remember that. So this is a quality that people in this age don't have. That we lost that ability because our minds are too disturbed. Therefore it's called Shruti. Shruti is what's being spoken by the Supreme Lord, Apariseya, not by a human being, right? We get that point, Shruti. And yes, but this Vedas had 4 parts, 4 constituents of the Vedas. So we have 4 Vedas, they are called Rig Veda, Atharva Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda. 4 Vedas, 4 books, different Vedas. So, but each Veda consisted out of 4 parts. 4 parts. The first part is called Samhita, the text, the original text of the Shruti, what has been spoken by the Supreme Lord, what comes from him. Well, the Vedas, they were manifested in the beginning. Tine Brahma Hridaya Adika Vaye. They were manifested to the heart of Brahma. That is how spiritual knowledge manifests. You will learn in Bhagavad Gita to assimilate the transcendental knowledge. One must approach a spiritual master and hear from him attentively and serve him submissively. And then Krishna is pleased, and when you do that, the Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam, Krishna gives you realized knowledge to the heart. So we also will get the knowledge to the heart finally, the realization of this knowledge. But first we must hear. This is Samhita, is what's spoken, what has been spoken. That's the first part. But then you have the second part is called Brahmanas. That has nothing to do with Brahmins. Brahmanas is the same text of the Samhita, but with explanations between how to pronounce it correctly. Because these Vedas, they were recited at great sacrifices, and the effect of this recitation was only there when the hymns were pronounced correctly. And so this is the Brahmanas, is the same text, but it explains how to pronounce it rightly. With annotations, we can say how to pronounce it. And then you have a fourth constituent or part of these Vedas. The third first. The third is called an Aranyaka. Aranya means forest. So for each Vedas, fire sacrifices, jahyas, were performed in the forest. Big sacrifices. The big Vedic sacrifice. That to do these sacrifices, they were building a sacrificial area, and they were months busy how to build it according to Vastu and the rules how to perform this sacrifice, this jahya, according to this particular Veda. That's called Aranyaka. So that's the third scripture. But then you have a third part of each Veda, Aranyaka, how to perform the jahya. That means it contains descriptions which spoon, which ladle to use, and how to prepare the ghee and set up the fire sacrifice and so on. That was the third part. And the fourth part of the Vedas is called Upanishad. That's the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge behind the Vedas. And that was most important. That's all Shruti. That's the first prastan, or the first method of Vedanta. Vedanta, Veda, Anta, the end of knowledge. You will learn in Bhagavad Gita what's the end of knowledge. Veda, Anta. What is Vedanta? Srila Prabhupada's name was Bhakti Vedanta. The end of knowledge is Bhakti. Bhakti Vedanta, the end of knowledge. So Veda, Anta. And what is the end of knowledge? Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Vedasya sarvar aham eva vedya. Vedanta ket vedam eva chaham. Is Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Easy to Sarvasya Sam Redishan Vistamata Smitra Namapampa. Vedasya sarvar aham eva vedya. By all the Vedas, Krishna says, I'm to be known. So that's the purpose of the Vedas, to know Krishna. And this Isopanisad points directly to that goal. It's to know Krishna. And if we will find the last so yeah, if the last verses of Isopanisad is a devotee, or we can say a spiritual seeker, and he's praying to the Lord, please take away your glowing effulgence, your covering of Maya, and your covering of Yoga Maya, so that I can see your face, that I can meet you face to face. So that's Shruti. Now we have learned what's Shruti. Shruti are the four Vedas. That's Rig, Sama, Atharva, and Yajurveda. And each Veda is 4 parts. We discussed 4 parts. The Samhita, the text, the Brahmanas, how to pronounce it, the Aranyakas, how to do fire sacrifices for that Veda, And the fourth one is that the spiritual knowledge. So that's Shruti, but you have also Smriti. Smriti, that it interprets the Shruti text. Without the Smriti, you cannot understand the Shruti. But it interprets it through the teachings of realized persons. And this Smriti has been written down by the same author, Vedavyas, Srila Vyasadeva. And the Smriti means the Puranas. There are many Puranas, but there are 18 main Puranas. 18. 6 for people in goodness, 6 for people in rajas, the passion, and 6 for people in ignorance. But the topmost Purana is the Bhagavad Purana. Bhagavad is person, and that Srimad Bhagavatam is the Bhagavad Purana. That's the topmost Smriti. That although it's not completely Smriti, Krishna speaks through the Gita in that. And also the Itihasas. Itihasas, we know the Ramayana, the epics they call it, and the Mahabharata. Mahabharata, because the Vedas are meant to be studied by those who have Brahminical qualities, otherwise you cannot understand. So the Sudras, the low of the people in this age, they cannot study the Vedas. So therefore, for the less intelligence, you have the Mahabharata. It teaches the same principles, but in a very, in a way of stories. But the Srimad Bhagavatam presents the essence of the Veda. So it is the natural commentary of the Vedas on the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra is the essence of the Vedas. In sutras, aphorism. Aphorism means, yes, very cryptic, very short, too short to understand it really, so you need some explanation. But that explanation we find in the Smriti, especially in the Bhagavatam. And the third Prastantraya in Vedanta, 3 forms in which we find the Vedas directly, the Smriti, and the third is the Vedanta Sutra. That I just explained what Vedanta Sutra is the essence of Vedas. Vedanta Sutra has 4 books. And the first book of the Vedanta is about Sambandha Jnana, understanding who we are and understanding who Krishna is and what our relationship is. That's Sambandha Jnana. And the second part, the second and third book of the Vedanta is about Abhidheya Jnana, how to practice spiritual life. And the last book is out on Prayojan, what's the goal. So we have explained Shruti, Smriti, Nyaya, that so that's, we can say there is a progression in Srila Prabhupada's books also, that we find that the Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata, and it gives us Vedic knowledge. It's Vedic. And Srimad Bhagavatam concentrates on how to practice this knowledge. It's a book for the Vaishnava. Vaishnava means worshipper of Vishnu. How to worship Vishnu. Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's more specific. And then we have Chaitanya Charitamrita and Nectar of Devotion, because Nectar of Devotion is a part of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya speaks to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and that is still more specific. It's Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, is for those in the line of Lord Chaitanya. So there is this progression in Srila Prabhupada's books. Bhagavad Gita is Vedic, is general. Srimad Bhagavatam is more specific for the practice of devotional service. And even Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, is even more important, more specific. Just a moment. Yeah, there we go. But these 4 books, which we will discuss here, and which we study also the 4 books we study here in our Bhakti Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Isopanisad. They give us everything we need to practice devotional service. Because some of these books will focus on sadhya. Sadhya means the goal, understanding Krishna. And the other books on sadhana, how to practice our relationship with Krishna. So we see, yes, that it's on the screen here. So the sadhya, that Krishna is the goal, and the principle of sadhana will be established through Bhagavad Gita and Sri Isopanisad. So why must we serve Krishna? Who is Krishna? What is our relationship with Krishna? It's all clarified in Bhagavad Gita and Sri Isopanisad. But then, how to bring that in practice? That's called sadhana. Sadhana will be explained in Nectar of Instruction and Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada said, is our practical manual for devotional service, how to do it. We know Lord Chaitanya came to teach us in Kali Yuga how to practice devotional service. Because Krishna had said in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadhamam Prachiyam Mamikam Samvacham Tvam Sarvapapya Moksheshyam, just surrender unto me. But in Kali Yuga, nobody wants to surrender. Me, surrender to who? I surrender to no one. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya, knowing the people, the fallen situation of the people in Kali Yuga, came to show how to be a devotee, how to do it even in this Kali Yuga, which is so difficult. And therefore, he came, Lord Chaitanya, and he gave all these instructions to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And Rupa Goswami, therefore, put the essence in Nectar of Instruction and the practice in Nectar of Devotion. A very practical books. So the sadhya and the sadhana is established in Bhagavad Gita, and she is Upanishad. She is Upanishad, which we are discussing now. But it's established here that we understand why to do it, but how to do it, that's Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction. So in simple words, why do we do it? That's Shisa Upanishad Bhagavad Gita. How to do it? Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction. So, now in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada speaks about 4 defects that I'm confident you have all read through it already. That he says, yes, why should we take shelter of the Vedic knowledge? Because the Vedic knowledge is perfect. Is perfect. And this perfect knowledge you can only get from a perfect source. And that perfect source cannot be of human origin. A human can never write on his own invention on spiritual matters. It's not possible. That we can even not understand what spiritual is with our brains, because our brains are material. How can you understand something spiritual with something material? It's not possible. But we can understand it, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, through devotion. Through devotion. And how to develop the devotion, we can understand. But why? Because we said before, the Vedas are apauruseya. Apauruseya means from perfect origin, not from human origin. Because humans have a cheating propensity. They are in illusion, they make mistakes and have limited senses. Of course, in this introduction, I said it's a lecture to these Indians in London. And Srila Prabhupada speaks about Mahatma Gandhi. He wrote him a letter to, warning him that he should not make mistakes. But he made mistakes. He went to a meeting and his assistant said, don't go, too dangerous. But he went. So we make mistakes. And we are in Maya. Maya, in illusion, we accept this body as a self. And because we accept the body as a self, we relate everything to the body as good and bad. That good is what gives me pleasure, what gives the body pleasure. And bad is the pains we get. We don't want that. But it's only the body who can feel pain, and the mind, which is also the body, subtle body, who can feel pain. So that's Maya. illusion. We think this body is everything, and when the body is finished, I'm finished. And the illusion is, yes, we think we can become happy in this world, but at the end, you have to give everything up. The body dies. It's illusion. One who is in illusion cannot write on spiritual matters, cannot understand them. And mistake. We make mistakes. Sometimes we take a snake for a rope, or a rope of a snake. It's dangerous. And we have limited senses. Senses are limited. We see a mountain from far, but then it looks greenish, we come closer, and then we see different things. We see houses, we see all the details, and we come more closer and we see more details. But we are like blind men. If you have a blind man, if he has never seen since birth, there is a story of 4 blind men, and they have never seen, and they come in contact with an elephant, and one is embracing the legs and said, "Oh, an elephant is like a tree. And it's very hard." And the other has the ears, and they are going up and on, and an elephant is very flappy. It's going anyway. They all have a part of the puzzle, but they don't see the entire thing. So we are limited. We can not understand the absolute truth by our senses. Therefore, we need a knowledge without mistakes. So these are the points which Srila Prabhupada in the introduction explains, that he speaks about universal and axiomatic wisdom. Universal and axiomatic. So we will find, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Deinotsmin chatadeya kamnam chavnam chara tatadeya therapaptir dias tatra namuyati. For Arjuna, your body changes from boyhood to youth, adult and old age, and you must tolerate it. So this is universal knowledge. It's not that Krishna says, "Oh, Arjuna, because you are a Hindu, your body changes. And the Christians, their body does not change. That's different. It's only for the Hindus." No, this is universal knowledge. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who takes birth is sure to die. Is that only for the Hindus? No. No, it's for everyone. This is universal knowledge. And then he starts to explain how Vedic knowledge is superior to all other knowledge. How Vedic knowledge is superior. Methods used, some of the methods are used many times, is Pratyaksha and Anuman. Pratyaksha is sense perception. If we can see, I believe. Pratyaksha. But we cannot see the absolute truth. It's useless, this Pratyaksha, for spiritual matters. And we see the scientists today, what they see, they believe, and the rest is But there are so many things we have to accept without believing. That, yeah. I had to accept before I came to New York that America existed. I've never seen it. Well, I've been a few times, but the first time I came, yeah, I've accepted it on faith that it exists. That, yeah, so much knowledge. Pratyaksha and Anuman. Anuman is logic. Also with logic, you cannot understand the absolute truth. We have Madhvacharya, is one of the greatest charyas in our line. He was 11 and he was already very learned. He took sannyas at 11 and he memorized practically the whole Bhagavatam, and when he was 18, he was known as the greatest scholar in the area. And one day there came a disciple of a Buddhist, that great Buddhist master. And he said, yes, my master want to have a debate with you on the absolute truth. That was what the disciple of the Buddhist master said. Madhvacharya replied, the absolute truth cannot be known by logic. And there was no debate. It's useless. It's completely useless. So our system is not pratyaksha, is not anuman or logic. Our method is sabda brahman. That you can only know Krishna through the Vedas, to the transcendental vibration of the Vedas. Sabda brahman. That is our method. Transcendental sound vibration. And not by pratyaksha, sense perception, or anuman, logic. It is, Srila Prabhupada many times said, if you want to know who your father is, the best authority is the mother. You ask the mother, she knows. That so if we want to know who Krishna is and who we are, we can only know through the Vedas. The Vedas are the only way to know about Krishna, are the only way to know about the transcendental realm. No other way. So this is because we will see that sometimes we will also use pratyaksha and anuman, but in support of the Vedas. But it's not the source of our knowledge. That's not possible. If it agrees with the Vedas, we accept it. Because in the Vedas there are things which are appearing seemingly contradictory. The Vedas says that animal stool is untouchable. It's contaminated. But cow dung is pure. That it's antiseptic. And they did tests on it, scientists did tests on it, and it has antiseptic qualities. It's pure. So that is the Vedas. That everything what's in the Vedas, that is true. We accept. And then Srila Prabhupada makes the point, Vedas sarveram eva vidya. Krishna is the source of the Vedas. Why is that so important, to understand that Krishna is the source of the Vedas? If you know Krishna, then only you can know yourself. And when you know yourself, that means you know you are a servant of Krishna. And then you a part and parcel, and servant of Krishna. And then you will engage in devotional service. But it starts all with knowing Krishna. We are in trouble because we have forgotten Krishna. And we think ourselves independent. So, and in the last paragraph of this introduction, Srila Prabhupada speaks about, yes, the Vedas and the history of the Vedas, that so many points he makes that yeah, there is, although we have our own commentary of the Vedas on the Vedanta Sutra, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. That how do we know that it is the commentary? That well, each sutra from the Vedanta is explained in the Bhagavatam. And what is the first sutra of the Vedanta? It's Shanmadi Yasya. The absolute truth is the source of everything. And what's the first verse of the Bhagavatam? Shanmadi Yasya Tom Vayatitartas Sadesabhihyasvarat Dinibrahmaridaya Adkavaye Mayantiyatsurayaha, and so on. It starts with defining the absolute truth. It explains directly that the Bhagavatam will also explain, yeah, and that's many verses explained. Atta Brahmana Jihnas. Atato, yeah, Brahma Jihnas. Atato, no. It's the time you have the human form of life to inquire about the absolute truth. That. The last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam Shatir Sloki, in the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto, which embodies the essence of the Bhagavatam, says, one should search for this absolute truth everywhere, internally, externally, everywhere. That's the goal of life. And that's the point of Isopanisad. The spiritual seeker is searching for the absolute truth. It's a seeker. And surely we will come to the point. So that is the introduction. Let's take a few moments for questions on this introduction. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a lovely class. So, Maharaj, you were very nicely explaining the faults one has. You explained the illusion and mistakes about Prabhupada saying not to go to Mahatma Gandhi and other things. How to explain, Maharaj, cheating propensity to when you were preaching, how to explain to others cheating mentality without they being offended, how do you explain that we all have cheating mentality?
Yeah, you have to see for the audience, maybe that's not the best way to start with that in introducing Krishna consciousness. But cheating propensity is in all of us, because we see things in connection with the body, which we are not. And therefore we cheat ourselves and others, because we think that we are going to be happy in this world, and we think, but suppose you try to become happy in this world, and you have only good karma. You don't find such people in Kali Yuga, because if you take birth in Kali Yuga, means you have a lot of bad karma. But suppose you have only good karma, everything is going well, you have your children are listening to you, and everyone prospers and becomes happy. And then at the end of life, what happens? It's all finished. So material life is cheating. It cheats you. And that cheating propensity is found everywhere. In everything we do in relationship for the body, everything for I and mine is cheating, because the I and mine is false. It's a temporary form which covers your soul. So real knowledge is living as a spirit soul in this world. And that's devotional service. That connecting everything with Krishna. That, yes. But not everyone can understand this. People are not ready to accept that. Because their attachment to this world, it goes completely against their conceptions of life. That conception of life they have built up for many, many lifetimes. That and it's nice we see wars today, but a Russian or Ukrainian, if you tell them you are not a body, this country is not yours, you are fighting just for illusion. It's not yours. It belongs to Krishna and should be used in his service. You say it's mine and the other side says it's mine, but they are both in illusion. They are not ready to accept that. They are not ready to accept that everyone dies for nothing. But that's the consequence of this philosophy of the soul. That, yes. Mm-hmm. So, does that help?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Something else? Okay, then I propose we have a pause of 10 minutes and we convene again 10 past 11. Okay? I'll pause here for a moment.
Recording stopped.
Now one thing.
The volume of the mic?
Yeah, and here I need the slides on the screen also, and I will. I
How would
know.
you set that maybe?
No. I know in.
You want to be seen there, Maharaj?
Yeah, settings, display here, and that's multi-displays. I'm going to change that.
The top, Maharaj, extend these displays.
Show
Duplicate.
only duplicate. gate. Okay. Keep changes. Okay. And that will help. Then we will have the second now. PowerPoint. The invocation. And that was the preface and introduction that we got. Stop share. This. What is this? Yeah, no, it's another one. First here. Invocation. It's this one that I need. So if we go back.
Around the block 500.
And do you see it? Invocation, yeah, share. Yeah, that's okay. Now then, over here, get the next one. This is finished.
So now it will show Maharaj.
So
Looks like.
let's
Yeah.
moment. The word comments. Where do I find word? They are here. Invocation. Okay. Shot. Someone put it in the shot here.
Maybe I can just take it.
The learning curve.
You feel okay, Maharaj? With the technical part of it?
Yeah.
To tell you frankly, for me it's too complicated. I'm not good in technical stuff.
Okay.
I want to check out the record. We are ready to start. I'm going to close the rest of the Maharaj, sometimes at the end, if you have to take a few minutes extra, it's not a problem.
So, just a moment back, try to share. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, we are continuing. We will discuss now the invocation. So we have heard how everything we heard about the importance of the Vedas, that what the Vedas are. We discussed the four forms of the Vedas, the Shruti, the Smriti, and Vedanta. We discussed the four constituents of each Veda, that the Samhitas, the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and
First, you're recording in the Zoom? Or?
okay, just a moment. Interesting, I've to record it, but there's no record button anymore, it disappeared. But what to do?
Maybe we could stop sharing for a second and then.
Stop sharing. Okay. That is
Recording in progress.
okay. Now I have to share again. Okay, we are there. So, and the fourth part was the Upanishads, the knowledge. And we learned that this Isopanisad belongs to one of the Vedas, the Yajurveda. It's the knowledge part. And we will now enter more deeply in this Isopanisad. And we will discuss the first verse, which is an invocation. But technically, the invocation is not part of Isopanisad. That does so. But the invocation, it explains a profound truth, and it's very consistent with the theme of the Isopanisad, which is the absolute truth. So this verse, usually this verse and the first mantra are usually for the Bhakti Shastri memorization verses. You have to memorize them. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. That I will read the translation now, but on all these verses of Isopanisad, the commentaries that were originally based on a series of lectures Srila Prabhupada gave on Isopanisad, which were published in Bhakti-Gotet. That was already published in one of the first Bhakti-Gotet in the 40s when Srila Prabhupada was in India. because at that time, as now, that most people were impersonalists. And Srila Prabhupada used this Isopanisad for preaching because it points directly to the Supreme Person. But he made comments on it in his lectures, in these articles, and that was what was put together as the commentary on each of these mantras. That so because Srila Prabhupada published that in the 40s, so that's a long time ago. Translation. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as the phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself, because is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So that's very interesting that so that is an overview of what Srila Prabhupada discusses. But like I said, the Isopanisad is puzzling, enigmatic. If you hear that and you wonder, what does it mean? Puzzling. But still it's very clear, and we will try to explain these mysterious verses that so the verse you find a lot about the word Purna. So what is that Purna thing? That Vedas are enigmatic, puzzling, mysterious. They are meant for those who love to speculate. That it's yes. It says if you have infinity and you take something out of the infinity, still the infinity remains. That's like in mathematics, that you can have a set of odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and it continues until there is no end. So that is an example of which is infinite, doesn't stop. These are called the odd numbers. But you have also the even numbers. That's also in unlimited. Even numbers 2, 4, 6. It doesn't stop. You can continue, right? But then you have all the prime numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If out that set of prime numbers, you lift out all the odd numbers. Yeah. Still it remains infinite. You can still go on. You understand? This is a mathematical example that although there is infinity, there are levels and gradations of infinity. Take out the odd numbers of the infinite, still it remains infinite. Without end. So here the Isopanisad says, yes, this is how to understand the absolute truth. The absolute remains complete. It remains from Krishna, all the material worlds come, but still it remains Krishna. It remains complete. Well, this is spiritual mathematics. Is different from mundane mathematics. Mundane mathematics, 1 plus 1 is 2, and 1 minus 1 is 0, right? But spiritual means 1 minus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 1. It's different. So the personality of Godhead remains perfect and complete. We'll come to that a little later. Of course, material examples are always imperfect. That although we understand by taking out the odd numbers, the infinite does not become lesser. So the personality of Godhead remains perfect and complete. So we have the overview here on the screen. That's what Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. First he says, yes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is complete. First paragraph, the absolute truth, and then the material world is complete. Srila Prabhupada writes about that. Human form offers complete facility. Then sense gratification is illusory completeness, and devotional service is real completeness. How to understand that? So this concept of completeness, Srila Prabhupada in his purport analyzes that deeply. He says the absolute truth is not directly relating to a person, because the Upanishads is a transitional body that guides one from karma kanda, focusing on rejecting matter, bringing them to spirit. So it's for people who are cannot accept the real nature of the absolute truth directly. In Bhagavad Gita we find the gradations also. That first you have karma kanda, worship of demigods, then we have karma yoga, acting without being detached to the results, and by that the mind becomes purified, and then you get knowledge, and then you can begin to understand. That's the beginning. That allows you to understand, or begin to understand, that I'm not the body. Otherwise you can't understand. And then later you want to experience it. Then Krishna explains yoga. We will see that in Bhagavad Gita. Don't bother about that if you don't understand that right now. That will all be clarified in the Bhagavad Gita course. But this Upanishad is meant to bring people gradually to understand the nature of the Supreme Person. And it begins with this, understanding the completeness of the Lord in all circumstances. That it points to the importance of realizing that the Absolute Truth is a person. And that's the beginning. Understand this concept of completeness. So So impersonalists think, yes, there is no performer. Impersonal philosophy teaches that there is no being with consciousness, that it's all illusory. But we will learn also in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, there are different levels of realization and different levels of spiritual seekers. And Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita addresses all of them. He's concerned about all of them. He could have made Bhagavad Gita very short and not speak about all these things. No need to speak about karma yoga, jnana yoga, stanga yoga. Why? He could have made Bhagavad Gita much shorter. Direct go to Sarvadharma Parityayana Mahamekam Samvata surrender, and that's it. That you don't need all this. But he's concerned because they are all stages of coming to bhakti. He wants everyone to come to bhakti. So you have these different levels of realization here. So the absolute truth is always Sat Chit Ananda. And that the jnanis, those who are after knowledge, they perceive the material world and they understand, they want to go to the eternal. And slowly they come to the realizations that beyond this world there is something eternal. That's the jnanis. And trying to understand spirit, the eternal. And that's the Sat aspect of the Absolute Truth. Only one aspect. It's like, I don't know if there are cooks here, but if you make a sweet in the kitchen, that the sweet is cooked, offered to Krishna, and you see the sweet, has a smell, a fragrance. The sweet has a sight. You can see it also, but finally you must taste it, right? So these are three aspects: fragrance, sight, and taste. When I smell the sweet, when I only smell the sweet, then my realization of the sweet will not be complete. It's only smelling that there is the sight and the taste. It's like the blind man examining the elephant, never seen an elephant, and they have a different conception of what an elephant is. But it's not that the Absolute Truth is just Sat, eternal. No, it's Sat Chit Ananda. It is full of knowledge and bliss also. But only the Sat aspect is perceived by the jnanis. It's not complete. That's not a complete realization of the Absolute Truth. We are speaking about completeness here. Because that's when you study the Bhagavatam, you will learn in 1 to 11, Vadanti tat tatvavitas tatvam jnan avyayam pameti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sapyate. So the learned transcendentalists who know the Absolute Truth, who have realized the Absolute Truth, they have concluded that the Absolute Truth is a non-dual substance consisting out Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahman is only the eternal aspect. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, all three are the Absolute Truth. There is no difference from the point of the Absolute Truth. All three have Satchidananda from the Absolute Truth's views, but the one who perceives the Absolute Truth sees the Absolute Truth on different levels of completeness. So the sweet has all these three attributes. The sight, the smell, you can taste it. So when the transcendentalist progresses, he sees also the chit aspect. There is no difference from the Absolute Truth. He sees also the chit aspects, the knowledge aspect. So that is the yogic level. As if one becomes a yogi, then one realizes also the chit, at least partially. Because what you will learn in Bhagavad Gita, what is the highest yogi? Yoginam apisarvsnam madhyanantratman shatavam vachapeyo mam same yukta tamoya. The highest yogi is one who sees me in his heart as Paramatma and worships me with love, and then becomes a bhakti yoga. So that he understands, the yogi, that the super soul is in the heart of every living entity, and the super soul is super conscious of all living entities. And the super soul controls material nature. He realizes all these things. But what is then the result of realizing that they remain in the material world? It's good to know that super soul is the controller of everything, but you remain here. To enter the spiritual realm, you will learn in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you need Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service. Yes. So the Absolute Truth is the complete realization, is completely realized by the Bhakta, Satchidananda. That Ananda you can only feel in devotional service, bliss, ecstasy, ecstatic symptoms of pure devotional service. You will learn in nectar of devotion. And the jnani cannot get that, the yogi cannot get that. No. They remain in the material world. But we can transfer ourselves by devotional consciousness out of the material world. And that's so subtle, more subtle than the subtlest, that by that bhakti we can get rid of the subtle and gross body and go to the coverings of the universe. But the yogi is not free from false ego. He thinks, I will become one with God. That's a problem, because that's not possible. And we'll hear that in many ways. So, in the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam, it is said, the Absolute Truth, his eyes never blink. He always perceives. Krishna is in our heart, and he sees everything that we do, what we desire, everything. So there is no moment that he does not see us. The Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he writes, when one realizes the Supreme Person, he realizes these aspects of the Absolute Truth in their completeness. So the complete whole is not formless. If it were formless, it would not be complete. It's like we have a form, and God cannot have a form. It's crazy, the idea. No, it's unlimited. So we will discuss in a later verse the aspect of having a form or not having a form. That comes later. The absolute truth is complete when Sat Chit Ananda, these 3 points are understood. So that is understood when we focus on the Bhagavan aspect, the aspect of God as a transcendental person. So Arupam, it's in the Vedas, God has no form, Arupam, but that means no material form. He has a transcendental form, but no material form like us in this world. So, then the second paragraph starts to talk about how this material world is complete in itself. So the theist, they say that there is so much right in this world, so there must be God. And the atheists, they say there is so much wrong in this world so what is the need for so many water falling into the ocean? Who will get an advantage from that? So they say but the arrangement of the clouds in the air is in the sky is complex and cannot be found on their own. Then from the observers, we observe this world and we say, oh, there is no operator. There is no operator in this world. We don't see one. We don't see an operator directly seeing and intervening. But Krishna has made this world in such a way that it can go on its own. Man and woman create a child. That with the least supervision it happens. But the absence of, even if we say there is no visible operator, that is not a proof that there is no higher intelligent supervision. No. This whole world is very intelligent, designed, and follows laws of nature, which are supervised and going on by the arrangement of the absolute truth. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Drakshanya Prakriti. I am the superintendent of material nature. As a super soul, I control everything. I'm making your heart beat. Do you have control over your heartbeat? No. And this evening we will take prasadam, big feast, but then your digestion is going on. Who controls the digestion? We even don't know how it goes. Do you constantly think, now I have to digest? No, it's going on by Krishna's arrangement. So there is control like we have whole such a thing. If you decide I'm going to use this phone to write a book. That you may get frustrated. That we can curse the maker of the iPhone and say, oh, that's not suitable for writing a book. But an intelligent person will tell you this iPhone is not made for writing a book, right? That it is meant for communication, that small text, WhatsApp, whatever, that you better get a laptop computer to write a book. The purpose of the cell phone is not to facilitate the writing of a book. So the design has to be evaluated according to the purpose. So a jail is a place where there is an arrangement for living and where there is suffering also. And just because the jail means also suffering, it does not mean that there is no designer of the jail. No. The jail is meant to reform people. So, like this material world, there is also an ecological cycle, we can say. It's a cycle of symbiotic factory setup. That so in nature we see that there are human bodies. They give waste products. That is, and we produce waste products that which are raw material for cultivating plants. And these plants, they are producing that what we call oxygen. That so a factory, we are exhaling carbon dioxide, right? It's raw material for plants, and the plants give us oxygen, a raw material for the human body. It's a perfect cycle. And that so the point here is that there is a cycle that the human form, and that's the message of Isopanisad. The human form is complete when it's used for enlightenment. If we understand who we are and act accordingly. So we need clothing, food, shelter, and so on. But we get them, but that is not the fulfillment of our lives. We can and that's what Srila Prabhupada said, we should become complete. Because we are a part of Krishna. So we should not be apart. We should be a part, be a part. That is the conclusion here. So our completeness is dependent on Krishna. And Krishna is independent. We not. We are dependent on Krishna. So even for maintaining this body. So sense gratification is meant for this body, and it keeps us incomplete. That we're trying to become happy in this world by foolish fantasies, trying to exploit material nature for our sense gratification and some pleasure in the mind and the senses. But devotional service makes us complete because it connects us with the complete whole. So that is it. We will learn that in Bhagavad Gita, Mamavam Sochi Veloke Shiva Buddha Sanatana, 15:7 Bhagavad Gita. There Krishna explains who we are. We are a part and parcel of Krishna. And the part must be connected with the whole, not a part. Be a part, not a part. So that is the point. This devotional service is what makes us complete, what connects our soul with the big soul. That's the transcendental connection. Is that so our completeness is a dependent completeness. We depend on Krishna to make us complete. The hand cannot do what the head is supposed to do. When the hand is cut off from the body, I cannot serve the body. We cannot love Krishna when we are cut off from Krishna. So we are dependent on our connection with Krishna. That's Krishna consciousness. Like I have this iPhone, and you see a lot of apps, but the most of them, they work only when I'm connected with Krishna. Without internet, I cannot be connected. Without Krishna consciousness, we cannot be connected with Krishna. That makes us connect and be one with the soul, with Krishna. That makes us connected with the complete whole. So this is when one is young, one thinks one needs a partner to feel complete. Sense gratification keeps us, however, incomplete because the pleasure is insignificant. The mind brings out so many fantasies. It's like playing with a toy. The mind starts something and we never get the completeness out of the sense gratification. You never feel satisfied. You want always more and more. But it never gives you satisfaction. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, the illusory representation of completeness cannot fully satisfy them. The completeness of human life can be realized only when one engages in the service of the complete whole. And that brings us to devotional service, because devotional service is what connects us to this complete whole. It said, because the living entity cannot enjoy life of the senses without being dovetailed with the complete whole, the misleading life of sense enjoyment is illusion. It promises completeness, but it delivers perpetual incompleteness. You never feel satisfied. When I get a new car, I feel happy. Until I see a better car. That we feel incomplete. We never feel complete. It is the misleading life of sense gratification. It's illusion. We are limited. If we try to enjoy on our own, we cannot get complete enjoyment, because Krishna is infinite. By connecting with Krishna, we attain completeness. The way to completeness is devotional service. Yes. So any questions on be part, be not a part? So good. Then yes.
Just a small clarification. So Gyanis Maharaj, they know the aspect of eternity, and yogis, they understand the aspect of knowledge. So I want to know, Maharaj, what knowledge they have, like that yes, there is Supreme Lord, but they don't understand that there is.
Yeah, so the question, I repeat the question. The question is, yes, what kind of knowledge have these yogis? That these yogis, they realize the Krishna in the heart. It's how do they do that? Shitatmana prashantasma paramatma samayita. Is 6.6 Bhagavad Gita, I think. Or 6.7, could be 6.7. That so there it is said, Shita Atmana, one who has controlled the mind. The mind wanders, it wants, because it wanders when it laments for what went wrong, or hankers for things in this world. But the yogi has purified his heart from this attachment to this world. That happens after many lifetimes. Then he works Chitta Atmana, he has conquered the mind, and then the mind is peaceful. There are no material desires anymore. And what is this realization? Paramatma Samayita. Then he realizes Krishna in the heart as a super soul, and he understands the super soul is the doer in this world. He controls everything. He controls the heartbeat, your digestion, make your blood going to your veins. And Krishna says also, Sarvasya Samriddhi Shanivishta, I'm in your heart. And I give Matta Smitiganama Pamsha. I give remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. Everything you know is Krishna giving you. Everything you forget is also Krishna's arrangement. That everything you can remember, it's up to Krishna. So Krishna gives also, is also doing all these things. He knows your past lives and gives you exactly the reactions in this life you deserve. So the yogi realizes the super soul. But what's the advantage is you remain in this world, that's all. Unless you understand who Paramatma is. Paramatma is an expansion of Krishna, Bhagavan. So unless one understands that, one remains blocked. But therefore Krishna says the highest yogi is one who starts to develop love for me in the heart. And by that love, that means it turns into bhakti yoga, devotional service. And then one understands the position of Krishna, and that Krishna in the heart as a super soul is only an expansion, but the absolute is Krishna. And then by this love, this ecstasy comes. But if they don't come to that point, so their knowledge is partial, it's limited to Paramatma. They have knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma, but not of Bhagavan. Therefore they have to become devotees. But there's a big chance if they get that perfection, they will come to. But there's also a chance they will not. So it's just on the way to bhakti. Is that okay? It will be in detail explained in the Gita. Okay, something else? Then we go to mantra 1. That's the next mantra, and that's the last part we will discuss for today. Mantra 1. Okay, it's here. Mantra 1. So first, I want to present what is in this book. There are 18 verses. Now we will start with verse 1. And the verses, invocation, we discussed, and mantra 1 to 3, they are describing how to live in harmony with Ishvara. Ishvara is a supreme person, supreme personality of Godhead. How to live in harmony with him. And then the verses 4 to 8, they explain how to understand Ishvara, the absolute truth. How to understand him by spiritual vision. And then text 9:11 speaks about right and wrong knowledge, vidya. Wrong knowledge is avidya. Knowledge is vidya. What is the right and wrong knowledge for understanding the absolute truth? And then 12 to 14 speaks about the right and wrong upasana, of the worship. When one worships Krishna or one worships something else, what will be the result? And then the last verses are a prayer of the spiritual seeker to the Supreme Person to reveal himself. Because Krishna can only be known when he reveals himself. So first, obey, follow his instructions of Ishvara, which we will hear in the first mantra already. And then when you obey to him, you get to know him. And then you need the right knowledge for worshipping him properly. And then you have to pray for his mercy. And then the Lord will reveal himself. That's the holy Isopanisad. So obey, know, get right knowledge, right worship, pray for mercy, and he reveals himself. That is the sequence of all the verses. But now we will start with the basic principles. See, invocation. Invocation, we heard, what is the principle? Krishna is the complete whole. And the idea is that we also become complete by connecting him with devotional service. But the first thing you need to know to realize that completeness is knowing that everything belongs to Ishvara, everything belongs to Krishna, not to us. That's mantra 1. And mantra 2 will explain how to live according to that principle. That principle will be called the Isavasya principle. So, and how to live in disharmony when it harms. Yeah. We will clarify that later. So we will discuss the Isavasya principle. We will read first the verse. So this mantra explains how everything belongs to the Supreme Lord, but it gives some more information. Isavasyam idam sarvam yatkinsha sagatyam jagat tena jaktena bunchita mahita kasha sviddanam. Everything animate and inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So this verse explains that everything belongs to Ishvara, to the Supreme Lord, and how to live in harmony with its benefits. That's explained in mantra 2. Mantra 3, how living in disharmony with its arms. We will explain that. So only the Lord is independently perfect, and we are dependently perfect. we are depending on Him in all circumstances. So Isavasyam idam sarvam yatkinshe charatyam charatena tektena bunchita mahida kasyas sviddanam. Isavasya. Isavasya means that everything is controlled and owned by the Lord. He controls everything and owns everything. Like our body is not our body. It's Krishna's body. And it is controlled by Krishna. It will go to 6 stages in life. And yes, it will get older. And then, it takes birth. It grows, becomes adult, then byproducts, children. Then the body gets older. Finally you have to lose to get out of the body. But this body is under control of Krishna. Isavasyam, it controlled and owned by the Lord. And it says also bunchita, enjoying. You can enjoy only your quota. That's interesting. You have a right to your quota. That you should not try to enjoy the quota of others, knowing well it belongs all to Krishna. So everything, animate or inanimate, that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set as his quota. One should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So what does Srila Prabhupada discuss in the purport here? So glorify Vedic knowledge. He explains how the Lord is a proprietor of everything. We have our quota in nature. one's own quota. What is it? One's quota in human diet. One should live according to this Isavasya principle. So, we come to that later. So it starts with glorifying the Vedic knowledge. And there are 11 principal Upanishads. Here are their names: the Isopanisad, Kena Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, Chandogya, Aranyaka Upanishad, Svetasvatara Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad. Many of these Upanishads Srila Prabhupada refers to in Bhagavad Gita, especially the Katha Upanishad, that if you have Bhagavad Gita, I think you have Bhagavad Gita here. Just to give you an example, you go to the purport of 220. Because Bhagavad Gita is called Gita Upanishad. It's the summary of all the Upanishads, of all spiritual knowledge. If you see 220, I read the Sanskrit of this verse, 220. Najaite michaveva kadachin ayam budva bhavitavana bhuyaha ayo nityasasvatayam purano nahanyati hanyamani sarire. For the soul is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existed, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. But in the purport, Srila Prabhupada refers to the Katha Upanishad, and there we find a similar verse. So the verse in Bhagavad Gita is Najaite Mijaveva Kadachin Nayambudva Bhavitavana Bhuyaha Ayonitya Sasvatoyam Purano Nahanyati Anyamani Sarire. And here in the Katha Upanishad it says Najaite Mijaveva Vipachin Nayamkutachina Babuvakachit Ayonitya Sasvatoyam Purano Na Anyati Anyamani Sarira. It's practically the same. The Sanskrit, the two last lines is completely the same. And the meaning and purport of the verse is the same as in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada said. So it refers to the Katha Upanishad. It's very interesting Upanishad to read. You can read that later, maybe. Nice story. And the Svetasvatara Upanishad, Srila Prabhupada many times refers to that. It seems I'm disconnected. It's connecting again now. A big connection here. Let us see if it connects again. Seems to be a problem. Yeah, what do? We continue. Wait, I still have it recorded. Because you have...
Recording in progress.
Okay, we are connected again. It seems a serious problem. Okay, let's share it again. Like the Svetasvatara Upanishads is also mentioned many times, where Srila Prabhupada speaks about two birds in a tree. One is eating the fruit and the other is observing. There's a super soul and the soul. And that comes from the Svetasvatara Upanishad. And many other Upanishads, Srila Prabhupada refers to them. because we spoke about that before, that there are 11 Upanishads which are considered important. Well, there are 108, even more. We said there are 108 Upanishads. But each name of each name, like here, refers to the context. Like prashna is questions. It's questions and answers. That Birat Aranyaka. Brihat means big, like the Brihat Medanga. Big Medanga. Brihat, big, quite large. It's a big Upanishad. But the Shears Upanishad is very small, that we are discussing, only 18 verses. So we spoke about Prashtantraya in Vedanta, the Shruti, the Smriti, and the Nyaya. That we discussed already. So we will not look in the older Upanishads. We will look especially and focus on the flow of Shears Upanishad. So we have, I told before that there are 4 Vedas and they have 4 parts, and the 4th part is the Upanishad. And these are the 4 Vedas. The Yajur Veda is divided in 2 here, the black and the white. But that's detail. But these are all we see at the end. So we have the 4 parts, the Samhita. Then you have, after the Samhita, that's the Samhita, Rigveda Samhita, Taitteya Samhita Katha, These are the Samhitas, the original text. And then the Brahmanas, we have the explanation of how to pronounce it. And then the Aranyakas, and then for the fire Chakyas. And then the last part are the Upanishads. And we see in the Yajur Veda the Sri Isopanisad here, down, in the middle, down. Sri Isopanisad. It's one of the Upanishads connected with the Yajur Veda. So that's the whole thing. Here you find all this, Yeah. So we discussed all these constituents. Now, how is the Lord the proprietor of everything? The concept of proprietorship has fascinated people. Alexander the Great wanted to rule the whole world, that the whole earth, that Srila Prabhupada gives many cross-references to Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita 7.4, he will explain Bhumir Apanala Verkama Nabuddha Evasha Ankari Tyame Bina Bhagatyastata. He says there that the material energy is my energy. It consists of the material of earth, air, ether, water, fire, mind, intelligence, false ego. This is my material energy. Then he says, Apariyamitasthvam yam praktim vidamebram. Besides this 7.5 Bhagavad Gita, besides this material energy, there is the spiritual energy, which comprises the living entity. We are spiritual, of the higher energy. So it's all Krishna's energies, and energies belong to the energetic. Energies belong to Krishna. So how long can you call yourself a proprietor? That we only can call ourselves the proprietor for a short amount of time. A proprietorship is illusory in that sense. You can be a proprietor as long as you have the body. You can call yourself. But it's not true. It's a mental concoction that it's under our care for some moment. That's the reality. So everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. We can be evicted, thrown out of the body every moment. So where does nature come from? What is this? Well, and that source is the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada, this morning we heard from Srila Prabhupada in Amrita, Srila Prabhupada in Shuhu. So one time he made in the morning a morning walk at Shuhu beach at 6 o'clock when the sun came up with many of his disciples. I was there also once at 6 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to have the same experience. Was taking a peaceful walk and the sun comes up at the beach. But unfortunately there were thousands of people with the same idea.
Yeah.
It was not so peaceful. That is Mumbai or Bombay. It's crazy, so many people. But Srila Prabhupada was making a walk, and from the other side a man came, a little older, with a white cotton kurta and a white candy hat. And he came to Prabhupada, offered his pranams to Prabhupada and said, yes. Oh, Prabhupada said, oh, nice to meet you. What are you? He asked him, what are you doing? And the man said, I'm an industrialist. And Srila Prabhupada said, oh, what are you producing? And the man said, oh, we are producing glass. And then Srila Prabhupada asked, glass? What is it made from? And the man said, oh, he said, it's made from silicone, sand. And Srila Prabhupada asked, who made the sand? And the man was a little pious and says, oh, sand comes from Bhagavan. And then Prabhupada said, oh, you are stealing from Bhagavan? And the man was shocked and went away. And Srila Prabhupada continued this walk, and then he came back on the beach. He came back, and the man came back to Prabhupada and said to Prabhupada, but he says, I'm giving in charity. And Srila Prabhupada smiled and said, yes, you are a little thief. But that's the point. We think it's ours, but it comes all from Krishna. That the atheists say that things come by chance, but that's not a fact. Does a bridge collapse by chance? No, there is a cause. But if there is no pattern of possibilities given, and then just say that it's by chance, then that cannot be accepted as a reason. The word using as a causal principle is misleading. Logically, everything comes from something. There must be something that is beyond the scope of science. That science cannot tell us where everything came from. Only unproven speculations. But yes, for this we need to turn to the Vedas, to the scriptures. We may not be able to prove that Krishna is God, but it is logically that everything must come from something. When it is under my care, I should care of it. That brings us to the point of quota. The cow's milk is designated as milk for human beings. The cow gives more milk than the cows can drink. The cow is a person, and when the cow feels secure, it produces more milk. That is an arrangement by nature. So, of course, you have communism and capitalism. Everything that made the house comes from nature. The ingredients of nature are not owned by me. What is made of the ingredients belongs also to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada would highlight this point, that if we do not acknowledge the proprietorship, then we can be punished. So there the internet goes away and comes back. Yeah. So we hear about...
Recording in progress.
Yes, share again. I do it at the next slide. So we are there again. So there is a battle in this world between communism and capitalism. Especially today again. There we go again. It's every 40 years. There is some war. So we now remember the Cold War, after the Second World War, and the Cold War today is back on. So Srila Prabhupada gives this example to show that people are battling over the world, thinking that it belongs to them. Men face one another in enmity, and snarl, just like cats and dogs, because they neglect this Isavasya principle. Isopanisad cannot give advice to cats and dogs. If they do that, they will not hear. But it can deliver the message of Godhead to men through the bona fide acharyas, the holy teachers. Srila Prabhupada is sarcastic. They just snarl like cats and dogs. One country, we will destroy this country like cats and dogs. In capitalism and communism, both are claiming they are right, but they are wrong. Everything belongs to God. Because you have Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. That's explained in the Vedas. So Krishna is a spirit. It's on the level of the spiritual realm. His abode is in the spiritual world. He's always transcendental. And the Brahmins, they are called Buddhavas. They are also on the transcendental platform. And the Shastra is also on the transcendental platform. But then the Kshatriyas is a material realm. They are called Naradevas, the kings of this world. And they are supposed to follow Shastra and guide the rest of humanity to follow Shastra. So Krishna exists in the spiritual world. That in the material world, there are 4 Varnas. The Brahmins, they are close to Krishna. because they are, they are close to the spiritual realm. They are like Buddhava, like gods on earth. Brahmins are we can say an anomaly in the material world. They don't belong in the material world, but still they are there. So the Brahmins are a connection between the spiritual and the material world, and how they give us a bridge, and that bridge is the Shastra. The Shastra, and how to live on the spiritual platform. Live in this world without being a part of this world. So the Kshatriyas focus on the material realm. That's different. Administration. They are like Naradevs, representatives of God among human beings. The Brahmins tell how to live according to Shastra, but some will not live according to Shastra, then the Kshatriyas must punish them. They must assure they follow. So the proprietorship of God is acknowledged by the Brahmins. The Kshatriyas publicly and privately remain devoted to God. They are subordinate to God and the Brahmins. Through their actions they teach that they are servants of God. The king must give the example as a caretaker, not a possessor. So that's the Vedic system, a summary of the Vedic system. There must be an evolution of consciousness so that people do not become greedy and possess land. The thoughts of the Brahmins were implemented by the Kshatriyas. So there is this pyramid. So we will see now. Share. Oh, sorry, I was unmuted. That for the last. Yeah, it goes up and it unmutes himself. Sorry for that. But the recording will be available. But I continue. That mantra 1. So here you have this Kshatriyas. So Krishna is on the spiritual realm. The Brahmins make the connection between the material and the spiritual realm. They belong to the spiritual realm, but by the teaching of Shastra, therefore they are Buddhavas, gods on earth. And then the Kshatriyas belong to the material realm, so they are teaching Shastra, and the Kshatriyas must assure that everyone follows the Shastra. That's their part. So it's like a pyramid. God, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, it's like an elevation of consciousness. So now, communism, if we look at it, that you have these different socio-economic systems. Communism imposes artificial material equality. The talented are not rewarded, people become lethargic, most people live in scarcity and stay dissatisfied. Now, in capitalism, it allows wealth to determine position and power. Wealth exploits the needy. There's a cutthroat competition and insecurity. Everyone is greedy for money so that everyone is dissatisfied. And then you have the Varnashram. Integrates absolute spiritual equality of all people with their relative material diversities. As everyone is engaged according to their nature, they work diligently and happily and society gets the maximum benefit. So this is a different system where this Isavasya principle is followed completely in the Varnashram system. So then there is an explanation of the human diet. So today more and more there is the people become vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Yeah. Many people are non-vegetarian and they think that's the way to eat meat. That we see that we don't have nails to kill animals. That our digestive system is that of vegetarians, long intestines. Human beings are meant to eat vegetarian food. That's our quota. Animals will not be killed if we are all vegetarian. Then we can several times have more land to feed the people. That's one meat eater equals 10 vegetarians in terms of land needed to feed one person. So then the question is, you are vegetarian, but do plants not feel pain? So from the scientific view, it is said trees have less developed nervous system. And it's natural. Crops perish if not cut, they will die anyway. Animals are killed long before their normal death. That is, yeah. So we should cause as less as possible pain to others, but Srila Prabhupada says, don't kill the animals. You can eat the meat when they die naturally. So we see the difference. Slaughterhouses are horrific, blood everywhere, but harvesting, children can take part. Parents do not want their children to go to slaughterhouses. So we need to eat according to our quota. And our quota is that we are vegetarian. Yes. One can say, yes, we have canine teeth, yeah, but only a few. That indicates that meat should be a small part or not at all part of the diet. So that is about the diet. But yes. So we are, Srila Prabhupada said that we are not vegetarians, we are prasadians. Interesting. The perfection of life is not to just avoid karmic entanglement. So we can be vegetarian and say, then I avoid reactions,
Recording in progress.
but avoiding karmic reactions is not really the purpose of our so it's important that we are acknowledging that everything belongs to the Lord and give our love to the Lord. So we offer it first to Krishna because we know he's the proprietor and the enjoyer. And then we can take the prasad and we eat Krishna prasad because the perfection of life is to love Krishna. And that makes us complete. Not just to avoid karmic entanglement. So, when I was a Christian, we were praying before the meal. I don't know if Christians still do that. We say, yes, thank you for giving us this food. That's acknowledging it comes from the Lord. That's one part. But there is also a second part. We are offering it back to the Lord. And then he's the first enjoyer. That Shakya Sista Sinusant Munchante Sabo Kilbishai Punchate Frampapa Ye Pachantat Makarana. If one does not offer food to the Lord, one eats pure sin, Krishna says. So that's Atma Karanat. So these are the principles of the Isavasya principle, of Isavasya, which is explained in this verse. Isavasya means recognizing everything belongs to the Lord and we offer it to Him first. And then we take according to our quota. Our quota, Srila Prabhupada explains, is we are vegetarians. That's all. Vegetarian food offered to Krishna. That is the perfect Isavasya, perfectly according to the Isavasya principle. And then you live in harmony with the Lord, with Ishvara. Ishvara is the controller, supreme controller, which is Krishna. It's one of the 5 subjects of Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara, which you will discuss in the Bhagavad Gita. So we have gone to explain 2 aspects of the Absolute Truth. Krishna is a complete whole, and we should be we are a part of the Supreme Lord. We should not be apart, separate. We should be a part. And that part, showing that how you are a part, is by following the Isavasya principle. Then you live in harmony with the Lord. If you understand everything belongs to Him and everything is for His pleasure. So it's the basis of spiritual understanding, which is already explained in the beginning of Isopanisad. And we will hear more tomorrow evening about how to understand this absolute truth. How we can develop spiritual vision in our lives, or Krishna consciousness, to understand Him. And then we will hear very practical things about what is knowledge and what is ignorance, the knowledge we need to make spiritual advancement, and what's the proper practice or proper worship, and what's not proper. So this Isopanisad is very deep. It's not to be understood by everyone that this knowledge is secret knowledge, we can say. Confidential is called in Bhagavad Gita. But it's the basis of spiritual life which is explained here, and it's explained in a very scientific way. It's good to use Isopanisad for preaching to students and so on. Very practical. Okay, any questions, comments?
How can we find our Kota Maharaj? Living in the Grasashram, we are required to provide for the family and everything.
The question is, how can we find our own quota? What is my quota? First aspect that explained is our quota is we are vegetarian. That's part of our quota. We should not try to eat or exploit other things. The second thing is, what is my individual quota? Is what's coming to you quite easily according to your karma. That's your quota. That, like you have the Pandavas, that Queen Kunti was cooking for the Pandavas, and of everything she prepared, half of the prasadam went to Bhima, and the other she divided in for the other Pandavas, Draupadi, and herself. She divided the rest. So Bhima had another quota. He had another body. He needed more. So by that we have our individual quota. But mostly our quota is what you receive according to your karma. And that is what comes easily on his own accord. Like, the thing is that, what comes on his own accord? That, like if you are destined to be poor, and you think, yes, still I want more wealth. So you have your job, and you can take a second job and work at night also. And you will get more. But you will have no time for spiritual life. It's all materialism. So we should not waste our time with that. Be satisfied with what Krishna gives us according to our position. And we don't over-endeavor to get more, because we are going to encroach of the quota of others. You don't deserve it. So that's something we have to learn. If you understand that principle, you become peaceful. You don't endeavor for all these things in life. You live a devotee tries to live a simple life, high thinking, elevation of consciousness. That's important in life. All the other things are temporary, and if you encroach on the property of others, you will get karma, and birth, death, old age, and disease. And we don't do that. So this is essential here in this Isavasya principle. Does that clarify? Thank you. Something else? Yes?
Thank you, Maharaj. What
to ask one of the slides that you show. It was explained that like the Gyanis, they realize Sat aspect, and then Yoga is Sat Chit, and the devotees, they realize all three aspects. So I was thinking in this way, what is the situation of the karmis? Do they have at all transcendental realization, or how those were there in this picture?
The word karmi is one who lives for sense gratification. But karma is usually used in a Vedic context and as the followers of karma kanda. And they are still pious. Pious because they follow the Vedic way to enjoy. But it's a long path, and it's not purifying the heart. But one does not get bad karma if one follows nicely, and one gets elevation to heavenly planets. But one stays in birth, default, age and disease. That is karmi. Sometimes the devotee speaks about the karmis outside, but the people outside are not really karmis. Or it can be, if you take it in a broader sense. Karmi means those who get karma through their actions. But then it refers also to bad karma. But that depends how one understands karmi. But usually it refers in the Vedic context to the followers of karma kanda. That's my understanding. Something else? Thank you. This is heavy philosophy. And usually we don't start the Bhakti Shastri with Isopanisad, but anyway, we did it here. And you get immediately the high philosophy that usually I teach Isopanisad after Bhagavad Gita, because then they have one has already a good understanding of the philosophy, and then one recognizes when one goes in the Isopanisad, Isopanisad, what says the same. But okay, it's good to start with it, then you get ready for the real thing. Thank you very much. So we will be online tomorrow at 6:30. Those who are here can come to here. There were interruptions in the recording. Sorry for that, because the recording breaks. The internet connection has broken 3 or 4 times and reconnected again. But when it reconnects, it mutes me. And I forgot a few times to unmute me. Sorry for that. The recordings will be there.
We have other recordings as well. So.
Yeah, the recordings are also there. That they will be shared. Is that okay? You want to say something? Okay. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
His Holiness Bhakti Prabhupada Maharaj ki Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.